Hello everybody, my name is Daulton Nelson, and today I'd like to give my thoughts on a game I just beat, that game being Mega Man 5 for the PS4. Mega Man 5 was developed and published by Capcom. It is a 2D side-scrolling action platformer. Throughout the latter third of this year, I've been playing every main series Mega Man game. I felt really positive on the first two Mega Mans, those being really fun action platforming experiences. However, 3 and 4 left me feeling frustrated because of the questionable to straight up bad design decisions. Now I am here at the 5th installment at the series. I was hoping that this one would give me the entertainment that I was looking for within a Mega Man game. I ended up enjoying Mega Man 5 a lot. It opens up with a really cool opening sequence, explaining the story very clearly with some very nice visuals. The title card specifically comes in very nicely. Although not that much different from 4, the weapon selection in Mega Man 5 actually feels like it flows pretty well this time around. Again, there isn't that much difference from 4's weapon selection, it just is a feeling for me that it feels a lot better this time around. The oh-so-controversial Mega Buster now feels more powerful with its look and sound, and especially with the visual blinking charge on Mega Man. The claims that the Mega Buster makes Mega Man feel stronger this time around is now justified. There are also these M-Tanks introduced in Mega Man 5, which replenish both health and ammo for Mega Man. Another welcome change for me was the upgrade that Rush Coil received. In the previous iteration of Rush Coil, you would just spawn him and then spring right off of him, but in this game, you get on him and instead he jumps and then you can jump off of him, thus allowing you extra height this time around. And of course, the team at Capcom continues to impress with its graphical prowess and use of color. These are some of the most vivid and exciting backgrounds within a Mega Man game. The team also continues with its explorative elements that it introduced within Mega Man 4 here in Mega Man 5 by having a couple things. First are the hidden E-Tanks that are hidden within the walls in some of these stages. You can also now collect a letter in each stage that unlocks a weapon or a companion, a robot bird called Beat. These two are very welcome additions to the Mega Man formula and helps the game feel a little bit less linear. However, despite all of these positive moments that I had throughout Mega Man 5, there were some negative ones as well. For example, there were moments within this game that slowdown really affected the gameplay. Also, walking backward to deal with enemies just ends up with them respawning and making some of the situations feel really frustrating to deal with. I understand that this might come down to an NES limitation, however, I feel that this limitation should spur some debate on enemy placement and make enemy placement feel more clever than how it is implemented throughout this game. However, despite a couple of those negative bullet points I just listed, the stages this time around really stood out to me. Gravity Man stage has a fantastic gravity mechanic, where you switch from the ground to the ceiling. There's some great visual learning about this mechanic as soon as you start the stage, and it continues to be well presented throughout the stage with the arrows in the background and the sound cue that plays when you switch planes. There's also a great use of blue and yellow within the boss fight of this stage. Meanwhile, the Crystal Man stage has a background that is similar to Gemini Man stage from 3, but this time it is much more detailed and improved upon. However, Crystal Man stage is brought down a bit by this ice that falls during the beginning moments of this stage. It's a little bit impossible to get through unless the player has the Star Crash weapon, and these ice falling screens are very tough to play through because of the irregularity within the falling patterns of these ice hazards. Meanwhile, Napalm Man has this very Vietnamese background, with the dense jungle, palm trees in the foreground, and the tunnels that Mega Man has to traverse in this stage is a pretty funny and smart dig at the US. I also very much like the music within the stage, with its sense of urgency and purpose. There's also some very smart mechanical learning for the enemies that rush you as soon as you are on the same axis as them. However, the enemies with the missiles that come out of their stomachs are very annoying to deal with because of their small and hard to hit collider boxes. The missiles that come out at you and break apart when you hit them in this cramped hallway is also a down point throughout this stage. Finally, I found the missiles that pop out of the bottomless pits as soon as you approach them to also be very annoying. But then there is Gyro Man stage, which has these great details in the tile sprites of this stage. I also like the airy and free soundtrack within this stage. The elevators are also a very nice touch. Again, smart mechanical learning is used, with the enemies that shield then shoot at you within the platforms that you come across as soon as you get off your first elevator. There is also the fantastic learning with how the dropping enemies behave right before you reach that falling bridge within this stage. Starman stage has a fantastic space-inspired background, and the low gravity is fun to play with, even though it's the same physics that you would get when underwater. The Metals in this stage, with their little space helmets, are really cute. I really like that character design. The music track within Waveman stage is very fun to listen to. The bubble riding mechanic is very inspired, and is handled very well within this stage. There is a vehicle section within Waveman stage that plays like it's from a straight shooter. Chargeman stage takes a bit of a dive for me, as even though the train backgrounds are very cool and detailed, the boss fight within the stage is very hard. The boss itself is very hard to beat, whether you have the weapon that is its weak point or not. And this is because of the way the boss follows you around, sticking very close to you. Again, that issue comes up with enemies sticking close to Mega Man, despite Mega Man being a shooter. I also didn't like Stone Man stage very much. It reminded me a bit too much of Gut Man stage from Mega Man 1. However, there is a very cool moment within Stone Man stage with a rock-throwing enemy, where the rocks that he throws cannot even hit you because they collide with the ceiling at first. This is a great design technique used to teach players how this enemy's behavior works. The same happens with the bomb enemies in this stage as well. Now, as soon as you beat those stages, you'll go into Proto Man stages. The bosses of these stages are a bit too similar in design, but I do think the payoff for that is very satisfying. And that payoff comes in the form of the final boss of these stages, dubbed Darkman. Darkman is similar in design to all of the other robots that you face within these Proto Man stages. However, he also inherits all of the mechanics that each boss had previously, making for a culmination that is very satisfying to deal with. However, at the same time, Darkman is seriously hard to beat. In fact, I think he might be the hardest boss within the Mega Man franchise thus far. Looking on online walkthroughs, most of them recommend having beat at this point, or at least having an E-Tank. To me, this means that Darkman needed some balancing before the release of this game. At least the stage that you have to run through in order to get to Darkman is very short and easy, so at least they were very aware of the fact that this very hard boss fight would take you a while, and thus gave you a breezy stage to go through before you faced him. Finally, there are the Wily stages within Mega Man 5. Mega Man 5 uses the same twist as before, where it fakes out a different main antagonist just to show Wily again. This is slightly disappointing in my opinion. I wish that Mega Man would take that risk and go forth with a new main antagonist, because Wily is starting to get a little bit old at this point for me. But to go to the stages themselves, the first stage within the Wily stages features the strongest contrast and quality. It appears within the first moments of this stage, when you have to fall to progress. Falling the first time, a platform is placed very well below Mega Man for safety. A player will always, most likely, land on this platform. However, going from this platform, if you jump right off of this platform, you will die immediately as soon as you reach the next screen, because spikes are placed right there and are unavoidable. This is very frustrating, especially with that platform and how well it was placed before. It's very jarring to see these two screens side by side and how they're handled. Going a little bit further in the first stage of the Wily stages, there is a stage mechanic reused from Dustman stage from 4 in here, but this time it is much better done and improved upon as well. The final two boss fights in Mega Man 5 are easily the two easiest bosses that you will ever face in the franchise thus far. I definitely think that some balancing needed to take place before shipping this game. The weapons within Mega Man 5 I found ranged from really liking to kind of disliking, but I think this is the more positive outing for weapon selection in Mega Man 5. The gravity hold is fine. It switches gravity so that smaller enemies will rise and die in the upper part of the screen. It's a neat concept, but I barely used it. Meanwhile, the Crystal Eye is a great evolution on the Gemini laser from Mega Man 3. I like how big the shot is, and how it breaks apart if it misses and it hits a wall. The Napalm Bomb, I was more impressed with the animation of the bombs rolling on the ground, rather than the bomb itself. The gyro attack is a bit slow, but it has a nice mechanic of controlling its verticality. The Star Crash acts the same as any other shield power-up you would have picked up from the previous games. Meanwhile, the Water Wave is the most fun to play with throughout the game, with how it degrades as it travels across the screen. However, there is a nice balancing act going on here, as the Water Wave consumes the most ammo of all the weapons here. The Charge Kick is also very fun to use. I like how it incorporates the slide into its control scheme. Finally, for the Power Stone, this is easily the most frustrating and perplexing weapon within Mega Man 5. It is hard to really get a grasp on how to use this weapon. In conclusion, I ended up really enjoying Mega Man 5. This is the most fun I've had playing through a Mega Man game since Mega Man 2. And in fact, I think that a lot of what Mega Man 5 does is an improvement upon Mega Man 2 in some respects. That's why I'm going to give Mega Man 5 the same score I gave Mega Man 2, an 8 out of 10. I think there is a lot to like about Mega Man 5, and I'm very glad to see the upwards momentum and quality that Mega Man 5 introduces. The only thing that holds Mega Man 5 back were the couple of annoyances I found throughout the game, but do not let those discourage you. I do think that Mega Man 5 is a very excellent addition into the Mega Man franchise. That concludes my review of Mega Man 5. If you like my reviews, you can like, comment, or subscribe. I also have social media links down in the description below. I also have a link to my online portfolio where you can view works that I've done. And with that out of the way, please make sure to have a nice day.